All right, good morning. How's everyone doing? Karibuni sana. Good to see you all here. Welcome to another Afriforex daily analysis session. Of course, with the Afriforex team. Good to see you guys here. Lots of familiar names that we always see here each and every morning. Hope you're well, but we're really glad that you could join us. Welcome. So for the sake of guys who are new to these sessions, and to me, John Bogo is my name. I'm a trader with Afriforex. Afriforex is a trading unit. So we also do have Mitch. He is working in the back office. So in case you do have any questions, of course, Forex related, feel free to ask them on the Q&A section and also on the chat box. Mitch will be getting back to you, but I will also be looking at the questions more specifically in the Q&A section, but towards the very tail end of this webinar. But you can still keep your questions coming. They will be attended to. So we'll start off by looking at the watch list, what we had yesterday, of course, in comparison to what we do have today. So you can see what the watch list is looking like today, Friday, the 4th of October. Feel free to take note of that. You can see a couple of changes, not really that much, more so to do with the New Zealand dollar, but feel free to take note of that. This is what we're going to be looking at. So we'll start off by looking at the currency pairs that we did have yesterday that unfortunately are not going to be on our watch list this morning. So we'll start off with this one. This is the euro against the Australian dollar. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have looked for some selling opportunities. And you can see the three regions right there that had been pointed out. And you can see also an illustration of what we're expecting in terms of what we wanted to see before possibly jumping into some selling opportunities. The market had come down, but we wanted to see that hole within this region right here before we could have looked for some selling opportunities. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. And you can see that the market went to the upside quite aggressively, came in within this region right here. Fortunately, there was really nothing. Maybe we might get a move today. We might not, but unfortunately for us, it's not really going to be something on our watch list for today, considering the fact that the euro and the Australian dollar are both on the same side. So the next one is the Great British Pound against the Australian dollar. So for this one, yesterday, we were trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. You can see this one actually had 4 areas, considering what the market was looking like, because the market had just come down. Maybe there was a possibility price was going to come back in within that area. So it's not very common to have 4 levels, but if the analysis does actually end up necessitating that, then we can sometimes end up having 4 levels. So you can see the 3 areas that we had. In fact, if I just to put this one back within that area, we also had this region right here. These are the 4 areas that we're watching out for. And you can see that the market dropped down, something to do with the Great British Pound pairs. Yesterday, they did show a lot of weakness. So the market came down. Unfortunately, we couldn't get any proper pullbacks, for us to look for those selling opportunities. But despite the sales working out, catching them was a whole different story. Unfortunately, unless you did get them, unfortunately, we did. So the next one, this is the Australian dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buys. And you can see the 3 regions right there that Mitch had pointed out. Also illustrations of what possibly to end up expecting, before triggering the buy opportunities. Unfortunately, we couldn't get the market breaking above here to the upside. And unfortunately, we just couldn't get the market lifting off this region, to the upside. You can see that the sellers came in, but there was no sign of any buyers, and they really struggled today during the Asian session. We have the market coming down, but it's not really something that we will be watching out for today. So the next one is the euro against the New Zealand dollar. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some sells. You can clearly see the 3 regions right there that Mitch had pointed out, and also an illustration of what to expect. We wanted to see, the big sellers really show up, within this region here, but unfortunately they couldn't. You can see that when the market broke above this region to the upside, we just couldn't get the market coming to the downside of this area to possibly look for sales. So unfortunately, this one, there was no opportunity yesterday. And moving into today, not really a currency pair. We will be trying to see whether we can trade. So the next one is a Great British Pound against the New Zealand dollar. So for this one yesterday, we were also trying to see whether we could have gotten sells. This one did work out, although it was a very quick move. Like I pointed out, there was something up with the GBPs yesterday, because you can see that the market started to move at 8, and there was hardly any pullback. The rest of the day, the market just came down, tapped within this area. Some crazy fight was going on there, based on how the sellers came in, their buyers within this region. But unfortunately, we just couldn't get the market giving us something proper, based on what had been illustrated here yesterday. So unfortunately for us today, also not a currency pair that we will be trying to see whether we can trade. So last but not least, we do have the New Zealand dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buys. You can't see the 3 areas that had been pointed out. Also illustrations of what possibly to expect. The market did come back in within this region, but unfortunately, we just couldn't get the buyers coming in. And you can see that the market really struggled within this region right here. You can see that today during the Asian session, the market has come down lower. Something similar to what we've seen on the Australian dollar against the Japanese yen. So it tells you that maybe it could be something to do with the yens. So that's pretty much it in terms of the currency pairs that we did have yesterday that unfortunately did not make it to our watch list. So we can look at a couple of screenshots that we did end up getting yesterday. So we'll start off with this one from Alvin. Alvin, if you're here, shout out to you. So this was the euro against the US dollar. I can see that you got a buying opportunity on this one, somewhere down within this region right here. And I can see that your stop loss was just above your point of entry when the market started to move up higher, which was good in terms of where you got the buy. This was quite a very, very good entry, if I do say so. But of course, once the market started to move up higher, maybe your stop loss could have also been somewhere within this area, just below this spike, in case the market just came back in within there. But generally, this is also a region that looks like some sort of an SNR. Just looking at your screenshot, looks like the market had actually tapped within this area, broken to the downside. Never know if this could be, some sort of a retest back within that region. And you're not too sure whether the market could pull to the downside again, but hopefully you did do some money management within there and possibly bring your stop loss up higher. But in terms of entry, this is really good. So shout out to you for that, Alvin, and keep up the good work. So we also did get a screenshot from Bravin. This is on silver. So I can see that you got a buy down within here. Stop loss already above your point of entry. Market moving up in your favor, which was good. Hopefully you watched out for these problem areas right there. But also when the market was somewhere within there, maybe your stop loss could have been just a bit higher. But of course, in terms of where you got the entry, this wasn't bad, especially if you got it after the market broke to the upside, pulled back in within this region. Then that's where you got the buy. Then that was really good. But this is some really good trading. Not really too worried about how you ended up or finished off that trade rather. Though that Bravin, you're a real sniper on the charts, especially when it comes to silver. So shout out to you for that and keep up the good work. So we also did get a handful of screenshots from Dan Bickett. Yesterday, it seems like you're really on it. So this is on the euro against the Australian dollar. So I can see you got a sell on this one, somewhere within this region right here. Stop loss already within your point of entry. Can see that you do have these levels here and also an SNR somewhere within here, maybe an area where you are possibly targeting to do some money management. So that was really good. The euro against the Canadian dollar. I can see that you got a sell on this one as well. Market coming down. Hopefully you did manage your trade within that region. But I can see that your stop loss came in just above your point of entry. I know that on entry it must have been a bit higher, but this was really good. In terms of where you got the sells, or the sell, that's exactly where the sellers were. So shout out to you for that. The NAS 100. So you got a buying opportunity on this one. Somewhere within here, and immediately the market started to move in your favor. I can see that your stop loss is already within your point of entry. Just making sure that you secure in case the market does turn. In terms of where you got the entry, this one was quite risky, especially considering the fact that we do have the sellers, just sitting within this region right here. So it seems like you really wanted to get into a fight with these guys. But I guess that's the reason why immediately the market started to move in your favor. You already put your stop loss at break even. So that's a real cowboy entry right there. But at least it seems like you did actually end up making it out alive. So you also did get a trade on the UK 100. So this is a buy somewhere within here on the pullback, which is good. Definitely an SNR within that region there. Stop loss within somewhere within your point of entry as the market was coming up, even if you're targeting areas higher within this region or within this region right here. But nonetheless, this is not bad. Some really good trading going on. And you also did get the US 100, the Dow Jones. So I can see that you got a buy down within this area right here. Definitely an area where we do have buyers. Stop loss already above your point of entry. And I can see that you have an SNR there somewhere within that region. So hopefully do some money management within those areas right there. But that's really good. Good to see Some really good trading. Seems like Dan Bickett, you are the man of the match yesterday. You're really winning left, right, and center. So shout out to you for that. So shout out to Bravin as well, and also Alvin. We're always happy to see your screenshots. If you do get any, remember the number is 0715 It should be there on the chat box. Feel free to send in your screenshots. Us guys will be more than happy to see what you're up to on the charts. Of course, give you the much needed shout out. And of course, if you do need some assistance, then we'll definitely give you that much needed advice. So shifting gears into matters today. So you can't see the watch list right there. For the guys who've checked in a bit late, feel free to take note of that. So you can see a couple of changes. The Australian dollar and the New Zealand dollar have moved to the sell side of things. So let's see how things end up going. We'll start off by mixing and matching up the CHFs against everything on the sell, the Canadian dollar pairs. Then we'll move on to the USDs, mix and match up the USD with everything on the sell side, then finish off with the indices and the commodities. So the first one off the line is going to be the euro against the Swiss franc. So for this one, for today, and you can even start off by looking at what happened yesterday. We're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities on this one. You can see the three areas right there that Mitch had pointed out, and also an illustration of what to expect before we actually do jump in on the sells. I jumped in on a sell on this one somewhere within here. I think Mitch did showcase that trade or that screenshot yesterday coming down, but I managed the trade within this region because I'd seen how the buyers had come up within there. There was definitely an SNR somewhere within here. And you can see that the market reacted to the upside quite aggressively, also based on some news events that had come out for the CHF. So the market went to the upside, came back in. Unfortunately, we couldn't get a proper hold. You can see that the market didn't quite tap within that region. Like would have wanted to see just stand off within this area. I was really expecting to see where the price was going to get in within that region, but unfortunately it did not. So for this one, despite the moves that happened yesterday, we will be trying to see whether we still can get sells. So I guess it's more or less the same thing as what we're expecting yesterday. So if I were to even drag this and put it somewhere within here, you can see that the market has come down. Hopefully, maybe we do get a hold within here, but you also could find that these buyers, in case they are a bit stubborn, we could get the market maybe possibly breaking to the upside once again. But if it does come back in, then we could possibly try and see whether we could get sells on this one. And hopefully, maybe on the next attempt, we might actually get back down till within this region right here. So do watch out for that. But also remember, in case the market breaks and holds above here to the upside, then possibly we could get the market coming in within that region there. So just make sure that you also do have that in mind. But remember the red SNR at the top, that's going to be the last area where we will be trying to see whether we can get aggressive selling opportunities. So the next one is the Great British Pound against the Swiss franc. So this is also a currency pair we did have yesterday, trying to see whether we could have gotten some sells. Can't clearly see the three regions right there that Mitch had pointed out. Also an illustration of what to expect. You can see that the spike did actually end up going up higher than would have expected, but it tapped back in within there, came back down. And you can see that unfortunately there wasn't any proper pullback to look for the sells apart from this one, and the market came back in almost somewhere within this region. Seems like some sort of an SNR within that area, but that was towards the end of the day. And you can see that the market really slowed down within there today during the Asian session. That's when it's trying to calm down. So for this one, we will be trying to see whether we can get some sells and also areas where we can manage our trades within these three areas right here. So let's see what happens. Hopefully we can get maybe the market coming back in, maybe somewhere within here. I can see that an alert has been set there. But of course, the best area would still be somewhere within this region right here, or somewhere as close as possible within this area, so that at least we also end up having some good risk to reward, having more room to play with to the downside. So let's see what happens on this one. But remember that as the market approaches this region right here, you don't really want to be looking for yourselves, because to some extent, this possibly could end up being some sort of a probe. And if you do hit the buys, the sells and the market is just holding above here, you could easily find that the buyers could really push the market to the upside. So you're much better off waiting to see if you could get the market breaking to the downside on the pullback. If you do get the market actually holding to the downside, unlike what happened yesterday, because you can see that the market broke to the downside, came back in within there, but just couldn't hold, and it went all the way back up. it wasn't unexpected because in any case, this level when the market broke to the downside, this was a level that's visible also on the bigger time frame. So there was an expectation, that the market could come back in within there. It did. So we'll just need to wait and see whether we can get this or maybe the market coming back up, somewhere within this region right here, or somewhere as close as possible within there. Maybe that's what the sellers might need before they regroup. You can see that they came down aggressively, and you can see that the move started during the Asian session. Then once again, it's like during the London session, they came down. During the US session, they're on the pullback phase. But if you look at what's happening right now during the Asian session, moving into the Frankfurt, these are not really the big sellers. If you compare how the market was coming down and what's happening right now, it seems like the big boys have possibly taken their foot, off the gas for a bit. Let the market maybe get into some sort of neutral movement, neutral gear. Let's see what happens, but maybe they might pick up again in case the market either breaks to the downside of here, maybe it does end up coming back in within here. So just make sure you watch out for that, but also remember the red SNR at the top. In case the market does end up coming there, then at least we'll see whether we can also end up getting some, some selling opportunities within that region. So the next one, this is the Swiss franc against the Japanese yen. So for this one, yesterday we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. You can see the three areas right there that were pointed out, and also an illustration of what to expect. So the market was somewhere within here. And you can see that there was an expectation maybe price could have come back in within there, but you can see that the market really turned off within this area quite aggressively. But unfortunately, we couldn't get that pullback within here before looking for the buys. And you can see that when the market came in within here during the US session, the market has really struggled, or really did struggle to move to the upside. And you can see that the sellers are there and they're pushing the market to the downside. So there's a possibility we still could get the market and the buyers really kicking in, especially if the market comes in within that region there. There's also this area that we still need to watch out for, although just a minor adjustment based on what we had yesterday. It was a bit higher there. Today we brought it a bit lower. So we'll be watching out to see what happens within there, because in case the market doesn't get all the way till within here, maybe they could just be looking for, buyers just somewhere sitting within this region, right? And it could get that the market could possibly turn off to the upside. If it comes back in and holds within here, then possibly we could attempt, a buy within this area. Maybe they might come in a bit stronger than what they did yesterday. So make sure that you watch out for that. Remember the red SNR, in case the market breaks beneath that region to the downside, then unfortunately, there will be no trade for us on the Swiss franc against the Japanese yen. So the next one, this is the Australian dollar against the Swiss franc. So this is a new entrant on our watch list. And we will be trying to see whether we can get some selling opportunities on this one. So these are the three areas we will be watching out for. So don't look for the sells when the market is so close within this region. Wait for the market to actually break to the downside. Remember that we are coming into a region where we do have some buyers within here. You can see that they've reacted off here before. So we do need to see that they've been taken out. And the main thing that we need to see is the market break to the downside and still hold even on the pullback before we execute any selling opportunities. So watch out for that. But also remember to give the buyers the benefit of doubt. I mean, they've reacted off, this area before, they can't do it again. So don't doubt. Even if you do see the market actually holding above this area, it doesn't mean that they're not interested. Maybe it could just be a ticking time bomb. They're just waiting for maybe a specific time, and you could find that maybe the market could actually end up taking off to the upside. So just watch out for that region there. And also that other region at the top somewhere within there. If you do look at the market structure on this one, to some extent, we're in some sort of a range, which tells you that, the best buying opportunity, the best selling opportunities are still somewhere within this region right here. But of course, this one's here, the second best option that we do have. So could easily find the market back in within there. If you do, then at least just try to see whether you could get some proper sales within that area. If you can't, get the sales working, off the other two areas. So last but not least, on the New Zealand dollar pairs, we do have the New Zealand dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one, for today, also a new entrant. Seems like it's moving in an identical manner to the Australian dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one, it's coming down, but also maybe something to do more with the Australian dollar and the New Zealand dollar weakness. Maybe it might not be much to do with the Swiss franc. And that's the reason why this one is coming down. But let's see what happens. Right now, the market is just attempting to break to the downside. It's not yet confirmed that the market has broken to the downside. So could find lots of breakout traders hitting sales within here only for the market to actually come back into the upside, hold within here. And you could technically find the market backing within this region right here or somewhere within there. So just make sure that you watch out for that. Let's be a bit patient. In any case, even if the market breaks beneath this region to the downside and does come back in within this area, even if you do look for sales here, you might not go too far. Hopefully, the market can actually break free of this area, then come back in, give us a proper pullback that we can read. Then at least at that point in time, we could actually look for the sales. Because you can see this pullback right here, especially if we get a sequence of higher highs and higher lows. That's a pullback that you can read. If the market just holds within here and you hit sales, this pullback coming in within here might be too small. You might not be able to read exactly what's happening. And in any case, where you're targeting, immediately you check into your trade, you're immediately getting into problems with the opposite party because you're within a buyer's region, within this area. So we need to see something like this. Hopefully, if not, and the market does come back into the upside, then at least we do need to see whether we can get the buyers possibly pushing the market, all the way high up till somewhere within there. Then possibly we could look for the selling opportunities within this region right here, or maybe even higher up, within that area right there. So hopefully you have taken note of that and everything we've discussed, and that's pretty much it in terms of the Swiss franc pairs. So right now we're going to move on to the Canadian dollar pairs, and we're going to mix and match them up with everything on the sell side. So we'll start off with the euro against the Canadian dollar. So for this one, yesterday we were trying to see whether we could have gotten some sells. You can see the three regions right there that Mitch had pointed out. In the morning, at a time like this yesterday, when we were looking at the charts, price was somewhere within here. So the market had just come down. We wanted to see that hold within here before we actually end up looking for the sells. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. Then you can see that the market broke to the downside, came back in, held above, and you can see that the buyers did actually push the market to the upside quite aggressively. Some sort of a slowdown within here, but you can see that in as much as the sellers came down aggressively, with this move coming down, the market did actually end up pulling back to the upside quite aggressively. But I think based on the screenshots we saw, I think it was Dan Bickett who did get this sell coming down and of course did manage the trade well. So shout out to you for that. Quite a fast move coming down. Possibly would have expected the market to come in lower, all the way till within there. But unfortunately, that did not happen. And, it proves to remind or to show you guys that, in as much as you can see the big boys coming in, money management is key. Because you can imagine when the market came down here, anyone would have thought that the market was going to come down till within here. And you can get excited, forget to manage your trade, only for the market to actually come back in, within that region right there, and you're stopped out and you possibly come out with nothing. So, that's the nature of the game. So you always need to make sure that your game is always on point. So for this one, for today, we're still going to be trying to see whether we can get some sales. So hopefully you can take note of those three areas right there, more or less the same areas we did have, but we're still watching out for this region. So for this one, for as long as price is holding above this region to the upside, it's not really a pair of interest for us. What I would want to see is the market come to the downside of this area. Hopefully, if we do get a hold within here, then I think possibly could end up getting some good selling opportunities within here. If the market holds and continues to move to the upside, there's no point chasing for selling opportunities. Reason being, if we go up to the 1 hour time frame, this one had come down quite aggressively. You can see that if the market does actually break above here, you never know, it could come up all the way till within here. And if you're busy chasing sales, you're going to get stopped out quite a number of times on this move, especially when the market is coming up. So we're not too sure whether the market is coming back in within here or somewhere within here, or maybe even coming back up, to challenge those sellers at the top right there. So that's the reason why, if the market breaks above here and actually holds and starts to move to the upside, it might actually be better to actually not end up chasing those sells. And of course, if you want to look for buying opportunities, if you have a good reason as to why you should be looking for the buys, then well and good, jump in on them. But for us, unfortunately, or for me personally, wouldn't be looking to see whether I can get buys. I'd rather look for opportunities elsewhere. But based on the fact that the market has gone up, let's see, maybe the market could just be looking for proper prices within this region. And that's the reason why I've said this a lot within here, because I want to see you can get the market pushing to the downside aggressively, and the buyer is really struggling within this area and the market holds to the downside. Maybe even some attempts to actually break to the upside, but the market still holds to the downside. I think generally that might be good in terms of looking for the sells, but you still need to manage within those two areas right there. So for that one, there's really nothing much to do. It's just, setting the alert and just playing the waiting game. So the next one, this is the Great British Pound against the Canadian dollar. So for this one, yesterday we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some sells. Can't see the 3 areas right there that Mitch had pointed out. In the morning, the market had already made this move coming down, something similar with all the GBPs. And I guess in the morning when we're looking at the charts, price was somewhere here. We did want to see some sort of a pullback coming in. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. And you can see that the market just rallied down, found some sort of, a support within that area, and did actually end up bouncing off this region right here and actually holding within this region. So for this one, for today, these are the 3 areas we will be watching out for. So let's see what happens. You can get maybe the market slowing down or the buyers slowing down within that area, and do get the sellers coming in, then possibly we could try and see whether we could get some sells within this region here. There's definitely an SNR within this area right here, especially based on the higher time frame, based on how aggressive that push came down to the downside. You could find that maybe even the pullback could be deeper. That's why we have this region. And definitely lots of guys who are hitting sells, especially within this region right here, and the market starts to move to the upside. I think they've been thrown into some serious confusion. So maybe even they've started looking for the buys, which is good. Let's see how far they can go with those buys. But of course, we're still going to be keeping our eye on the ball, because based on the fact that you can't see that the sellers came down aggressively, we're still expecting possibly to see the sellers maybe come down and challenge this region to the downside. So we'll be waiting for that turnaround within that region right there. But also remember the red SNR at the top. That's going to be the last area where we will be trying to see whether we can get our last and aggressive selling opportunities. So the next one, this is the Canadian dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buys. You can't see the 3 regions right there that Mitch had pointed out. And of course, an illustration of what to expect. Can't see that in the morning price was somewhere within this region right here at around 910. Price had just tapped that region. Wasn't a good area to look for the buys. Clearly can't see that. Wanted to see whether we could get the market coming back in within there or somewhere there. But the market seems like it was just holding within this SNR yesterday. Today during the Asian session, it's come to the downside. So what we will be expecting is if we can get the market maybe coming back up and actually holding above this region, then maybe we could just look for the buying opportunities, within this area right here. But right now, considering the fact that the sellers are coming down, and you can't clearly see that the buyers have not really showed up, they're not even anywhere, within that move coming down. So we don't know at what point they might show up. If they don't show up within here, then we'll be waiting to see whether we can get them possibly showing up within this area. And you can't see that, from Wednesday, the buyers had actually pushed to the upside quite aggressively there. So maybe the big boys could possibly be trying to see whether they can get the market within there before pushing the market to the upside. So let's see what happens. But remember the red SNR, that's going to be the last area where we will be trying to see whether we can get, our aggressive buying opportunities. If the market breaks and holds beneath that region to the downside, then unfortunately there will be no trade for us. So the next one, this is the Australian dollar against the Canadian dollar. So this is a new entrant on our watch list. We will be trying to see whether we can get some selling opportunities. Hopefully you can end up taking note of those 3 areas right there. So this one, the market has pulled back within this region. This is a pullback that you can read. You can see some sellers coming in, which is good. Buyers slowing down within here. But let's see what happens. There's a possibility the market might just need to tap in, within that region right there, maybe to really activate, the really big sellers to come in and push the market to the downside. So we'll be expecting maybe we can get something like that. But also remember the region at the top, definitely also a region that we will be watching out for to see what does end up happening. But remembering that that's the last area where we will be trying to see whether we can get our last ditch selling opportunities. So last but not least, for the card pairs, we have the New Zealand dollar against the Canadian dollar. So for this one, it's a new entrant on our watch list. We will be trying to see whether we can get some selling opportunities as well. You can see the 3 regions right there that we're going to be watching out for. The market is just stagnant within this region. So it's either one of 2 things. Either the buyers within this area are going to give up, and we can get the market breaking to the downside. If we do and we get the market coming back in within here, then possibly we could try and see whether we could get sells. If not, then I guess we could get the market possibly coming back in within this region right here, then possibly doing some sort of a reset, because you can see that the market tapped in within there. Sellers came down, but the market is just holding within here. There's a minor scenario here, but generally the sellers are not really doing much, which means that if the market needs a better price, there's a possibility it could just come back in within this region, just to invite more buyers to come into the market so that the big boys can actually look for their selling opportunities. So let's see what happens, but looking for trades in between could be a bit tricky unless you're a real sniper on the charts. Like Dan Pickett, I would advise you possibly not to, because getting a proper risk to reward, especially if you get sales here, you might find that you may not get past this region right here. If you look for sales within here, then you have this major SNR within this region that's giving you a problem. So that's the reason why I'm illustrating as it is here. So you'd rather break free of this region to the downside than at least on the pullback. This sell might give you lesser issues than looking for selling opportunities within these regions here. And of course, the region at the top, also a good area where you can look for yourselves. So that's pretty much it in terms of the Canadian dollar pairs. So we're going to move on to the USD pairs. We're going to mix and match them up with everything, the USD with everything on the sell side. So we'll start off with the euro against the US dollar. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. And you can see the three regions right there that Mitch had pointed out. In the morning, price was here. We're expecting maybe price could have just come back in within this region right here. Unfortunately, it couldn't. Seems like there was an SNR here that was good enough for the sellers. And you can see that they pushed the market to the downside of that region right there. So for today, we're still going to be trying to see whether we can get some selling opportunities. So these are the three areas that we're going to be keeping our eyes locked on. So you can take note of them. So we do have the conservative at the bottom right here. Right now, we're just holding above this SNR. Seems like some sort of a probe happened within here, because this level is also quite visible on the bigger time frame. So the fact that the market broke with the downside, couldn't hold below, and it's holding within here, that tells you that this technically could be some sort of a probe. That means that based on the fact that the market is actually holding to the upside, there is a possibility price could come back in within this region right here, for the sellers to possibly end up regrouping. And as much as, there's some sort of an SNR, within this region right here, but you could find that maybe the market might actually need to come back in somewhere within this area right here, maybe just tap in higher than that. But remember that in case the market breaks and holds above this region to the upside, then unfortunately, there will be no trade for us. So just make sure you watch out for that. But also remember, if you do get sales within here, this could be some quick, maybe 3 minute, 1 minute type of sales, but you can see that you're only going to get about 9 pips before you run into issues. So it might actually be better for you to actually wait for the market to break to the downside, and you could find that maybe this sell right here coming down might actually be a much, much better sell. So just watch out for that. Remember the red SNR at the top, definitely the last area where we will be trying to see whether we can get ourselves. In case the market breaks and holds above that, then unfortunately there will be no trade for us. So the next one, this is the Great British Pound against the US dollar. So for this one, I'm going to be trying to see whether we can get sales. You can see yesterday it was the same plan, similar situation like we've seen on the rest of the GBPs. The moves coming down, which were quite aggressive. We're expecting maybe some sort of a pullback to come in. Unfortunately, we just couldn't get that. And you can see that the market broke this region to the downside, came in lower, still haven't gotten a pullback, but you can see that the buyers are struggling, to push the market to the upside. So for this one, these are the three areas we will be watching out for. The market is back in within a region of interest for us, which is good. But remember, there's still more that needs to be read, within this area right here. Not just because the market has come back in within an SNR, so we're just automatically going to be hitting sales. We need to see a slowdown, of these buyers who are coming up. So at least when we're jumping in on the selling opportunities, we have the confirmation, that we need, that we've seen that the buyers who are coming up have been taken out, the level is holding. Because right now, we don't know whether the level is going to hold. The market could easily break through this region to the upside, and you could find the market coming back, all the way to within here. So we still need to see a bit more confirmation, but at least it's within a good region right there. So let's see what happens. In case we do get the turnaround, hopefully we could get some sales coming in to challenge this region right here. But remember that the last day we will be trying to watch out for sales, or look for our sales is somewhere within here. You can see that the sellers pushed off this region to the downside quite aggressively. And the sellers who are now in control of the market are sitting somewhere within there. In case they're taken out, when the market breaks and holds above that region, then we'll just have to wait and see whether we can get the market coming back into the downside, before we look for those sells. If not, then I guess that currency pair is off our case and we'll have to look for opportunities elsewhere. So the next one, this is the USD against the Japanese yen. So for this one, also a currency pair we had yesterday. We were trying to see whether we could have gotten some buys. You can see the three regions right there that Mitch had pointed out. Also an illustration of what to expect in case we got the deeper pullback coming in. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. You can see that the market just came shy of this region, bounced off to the upside. Then after that, it's like the buyers just disappeared. They were nowhere to be seen. And you can see that today during the Asian session, the market is on the pullback phase. So for this one, at least we do have a pullback coming in, which is good, but we are still yet to see the buyers show up. You can see that the sellers are just doing their thing. They're just pushing the market to the downside, but there is no evidence of any buyers within that move. But at least the market is back in within some sort of a buyer's region. You can also see that there are some buyers within this region right here who push the market to the upside. So if hopefully we can get the market breaking to the upside, and we do need to see an aggressive push, especially with the buyer pushing to the upside, just to give us that confidence and just to show us that those buyers are alive and well, within this region right here. Then at least if we do get the hold within this area, then we could possibly look for the buying opportunities, and you could attempt a buy there coming in within that region. You will just need to manage your trade within that region. If it does end up going up higher than that, then well and good. But more or less, what could be guaranteed could be between this region right here and somewhere there. So also watch out for this region here. Remember, what I've illustrated here is just in case the buyers do show up within that area. In case they decide that price is not good enough and they do need the price to come in lower, then you still could find the market come back in within this region, which is more or less the same area that we were watching out for yesterday. So hopefully you have taken note of that and what the game plan is going to be looking like on that one. So the next one, this is the Australian dollar against the US dollar. So this is a new entrant on our watch list, and we will be trying to see whether we can get some selling opportunities on this one. So hopefully we can get the market pulling back in somewhere as close as possible within this region here. If we can get that, then at least we could try and see whether we could get some sales, because there's an SNR within here. But if you do get the sales there, you only have 12 pips to actually end up playing with within this region, and they could end up being quite elusive, especially considering the fact that the whole of this area is some sort of an SNR. So of course, the higher the better. If we could get the market possibly coming back in either as close as possible within this region, because you can see that when the market actually broke this region to the downside, there was no retest within there. And that's the reason why we are possibly thinking maybe there could be a possibility that the market could actually come back in within this region. If that happens, then hopefully we could end up getting some good sales within there. Alternatively, if that doesn't happen, we'd rather clear off this region to the downside. And if that happens, then at least we could try and see whether we could get the selling opportunities, on the pullback, based on something we can read off this area right here, and could possibly get some sales within there. So watch out for that. Also watch out for the region at the top. Could find the market backing within that region as well. If it does, then at least you should also be ready for that. So last but not least, we do have the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. So this is also a new entrant on our watch list. These are the 3 areas we will be watching out for. So let's see what happens. It's more or less a similar situation with what we've seen on the other one. So we do need to see the market break to the downside, pull back in, within this area here. Then hopefully we could get some sales, but also give these buyers the benefit of doubt. The market can get back all the way to within this region here, or you could find it all the way back within there. There's also an SNR somewhere within this area. But generally, as far as possible, as the market can get of this region right here, and as close as possible as it can get within this region right here. So just make sure you watch out for that. But of course, remember these levels, in as much as they seem they're quite far, you could easily find the markets coming back in within that region right there. Because remember, today is that day, it's either the day when you actually eat from the market. So if you play your cards wrong, then you also could end up getting eaten. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that today is a non-farm payroll, and you can see, based on the fundamentals, quite a number of news events will be coming out at 3:30, especially to do with the USDs. So just make sure that you really watch out for your risk. You could easily find that the pullbacks could actually end up coming in within that time. You could find the spikes. Maybe the market could be on the pullback phase, maybe during the London session. then maybe during the US session, you could easily find the markets really coming down or, quite aggressively. We'll just have to wait and see what does end up happening. They're expecting higher numbers on the NFP. So if that does end up being the case, then I guess we'll definitely end up seeing possibly some strength coming in on the USDs. If not, and especially if it ends up being a shocker, considering the fact that the analysts are actually expecting a higher number, if this number actually ends up coming out less than what they were expecting, and in fact even less than what was there the previous time, then there's a possibility we could see a lot of weakness coming in on the USDs. But you can see that there's also quite a number of USD news events that are going to be coming out at that time. Also some Canadian news events at around 5. So I guess the US session is going to be pretty lit. The London session, there's not really much that's happening apart from this GBP and a couple of Euro speeches that are going to be out. But it doesn't mean that the markets will not move. But you could find that, the big boys always like to hide what they are doing. So you could find that maybe during the London session, the markets might be quiet. Then maybe when the US session comes in and once we have the non-farm payroll coming out, then you could find that that's when all hell is going to break loose. So just make sure that you're careful on the charts. Of course, stick to your risk parameters. Like I pointed out, you're either going to be eating today, or if you're not careful and you play your cards wrong, you're going to be eaten. So that's pretty much it in terms of the currency pairs and the fundamentals. So we can look at the indices and the commodities. You can see that there's no change on those ones. So we'll start off with the NAS 100. So for this one, yesterday, the path was to try and see whether we could get sells. You can see the 3 areas right there that Mitch had pointed out: aggressive, conservative, semi-aggressive, conservative. Here in the morning, price was somewhere within here. You can see that he did illustrate that either we're going to expect a break to the downside to look for those sells, or the market possibly, bouncing off this region to the upside, maybe to come back in within there. But you can see that the market came back in within here quite fast. It just tapped within that area, and after that, you can see that the sellers did actually shoot the market down quite aggressively. Some sort of a fight that's going on within here. But generally, you can see that the market is in some sort of a range. It's bouncing and playing between these two regions right here. So the levels are more or less the same. The bias is still the same in terms of direction. Still watching out for sells. Remember, for the indices and the commodities, for as long as we're holding below the red SNR, we should be looking for sells. In case the market breaks above and holds above the red SNR, then at that point in time, we could look for the buys. But also remember, if you do get, like for this one, we're looking for sells. If you do get some buys, you can't jump in on them, just having in mind and, just having it at the back of your mind that the trades that you're jumping in on are counters. So don't be overly ambitious with them. So let's see what happens on this one. Of course, the best selling opportunity still lies somewhere within here, but there's also some sort of an SNR within here. In fact, it looks like true SNR could technically be somewhere within this region right here. This level that we have here is more visible on the bigger time frame, but generally you can see that the market is ranging within there. So you generally want to get your sells as close as possible within that area, so that when the market comes down, at least you will have sufficient room to make some good gains. And also, in case the market breaks beneath this region to the downside, then at least you could keep up with the selling opportunities. So that's pretty much it for the NAS 100. So moving on to the Dow Jones or the US 30. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some sells. And you can see the 3 regions right there that Mitch had pointed out. In the morning, price was here. So it was either the market was going to come back in within that region or maybe break to the downside. And you can see that the pullback did actually end up coming back in on this one right here. If you look at the times, that's exactly 3. Part of the times that we keep on repeating, 10, 3, 4:30. Those are the times that you should be watching out. When you can see that at exactly 3, price was back in within there, and the market did actually end up giving a really good selling opportunity, but you did need to manage your trade within that region right there. So for this one, in as much as there was some movement and the setup did actually end up working out on this one, we're still going to be watching out for the same things. The levels are more or less the same. You can see that the market is more or less contained within the same region. So let's see what happens. Hopefully, we do get the market breaking to the downside of this region, then maybe we could see the market possibly calm down. And you could find that the market could really take off from this area to the downside, especially depending on what happens with the non-farm payroll. But you can't quite know what to expect, because you can't find that the spikes could also end up moving to the upside. Could find the market back in within this region here. and you could find that maybe the proper sales might actually happen off this area right here. We generally have to wait and see what the story tells us. Then at least we'll end up taking action based on what the markets do end up telling us. So remember the red SNR at the top seems like a long shot, but like I've pointed out, the market can get there. And considering the fact that you have the non-farm payroll, you could easily find the market back in within there. So just be ready for that in case that does happen. So the next one is silver. So for silver yesterday, the bus was to try and see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. You can see the three regions that Mitch had pointed out, and also an extra level right there. In the morning, price was somewhere here. We're expecting either the market to break above this region to the upside and hold above this area to look for the buys. That didn't happen. The pullback came in. Even if it didn't come in all the way to within there was this region that he had pointed out, based on what had happened the previous day, the bars had pushed the market to the upside. And so, you just generally expect that maybe if the market comes in there, maybe there could be some buys working off this region. And you can see that at exactly 3, price was somewhere within this region, and the market did actually push itself off this area to the upside, came in within here, and you can see that there was another push to the upside. This was during the New York Stock Exchange. After the market broke to the upside, possibly some sort of a buy there, continue going up, but that did generally did need to be read on a smaller time frame. But it's good to see from the screenshots, Bravin did end up getting a good buy on silver. Of course, Bravin is a real sniper when it comes to silver, which is really good. We're really happy to see. So for this one, we're going to be keeping up with the buys. But of course, right now, based on where the market is not a good time to look for the buys. It's either the market breaks above this region to the upside, and we get the market actually holding above this region to look for the buys. If not, then we will have to wait and see whether we can get the pullback coming in. I mean, the sellers have reacted off here before. They can't do it again. We generally know that there are sellers here. So unless we break free of that region, we are still within the sellers area and they can end up reacting. Could find that during the London session, we could be on the pullback. Then maybe during the US session, that's when the market turns around. So just be ready for that. But remember the red SNR, also a region where the market can come back until if the market does come back in within there, and we get everything we need to see, then you possibly also could end up looking for the buying opportunities at that point in time. So last but not least, we do have gold. So gold, as Mitch loves to call it, the fan favorite, but today being an FP, this one will definitely be breaking a lot of hearts. So just make sure you're on the right side of things. So for this one, yesterday, the bus was to try and see whether we could get some sales. And you can see the 3 regions right there that Mitch had pointed out. And an illustration of what to expect. There was also this SNR plus that was given there in case the market came back in within that region. The market broke to the downside. You can see that the sellers had started off with a lot of force. This was during the London session, came to the downside. The market seemed like it was holding here. And you can see that at 3, there were attempts to actually break free of this region to the downside. But it seems that the buyers within this area were quite stubborn. They just couldn't let the sellers through. And you can see that the market came back into the upside, came back in within there, some sort of a hold. But today during the Asian session, the market has actually broken to the upside of that region. So just get rid of that area. So for this one, we're going to be trying to see whether we can get some sales. And these are the 3 areas we will be watching out for, especially if the market does set up nicely within this area right here. Considering the fact that we're at the top of a range, if I do end up going up to the 1-hour time frame, you can see that this region right here is a key level. The market has really attempted to break free of this area to the upside. Maybe today with the non-farm payroll, you could easily find that the market might actually end up attempting to make new highs. But at least what we know is that for as long as we're holding within this area here, we'll generally have to wait and see whether we can get some good sales to possibly end up coming in, especially if the non-farm payroll does end up coming out strong. Then that means that for this one, you could find that the market could actually end up coming down. And considering the fact that we're in some sort of a range, then that could be good. You just need to watch out for these regions right here. Maybe if the market does end up possibly breaking this region, we could find it coming in lower. But we'll generally have to wait and see. Remember, we're not any prophets. We're not prophets when it comes to trading. We just read the story to the best of our ability, try and analyze the fundamentals, try see what the big boys could be doing. Because remember, these guys, they don't call anyone. They don't inform you on what they want to do. It's up to you to go sit down, figure out what possibly they could be trying or what they could be up to. So that's what we generally do when we come here each and every morning. So based on what we can see is that we're within our sellers, and in case the market breaks and holds above here and we can't get the market breaking to the downside of this region, then I guess at that point in time, you could actually end up starting to look for your buying opportunities. But of course, being well aware that we've also hit extremes, like I pointed out on the 1 hour time frame. You can't see that for gold, we've hit extremes. And these are highs that we've never been. We've never really been here before. So even in terms of plotting the levels, it's been giving us a bit of a headache. But ideally, we've just been moving with the times as, each day ends up going. So we've just been adjusting and readjusting our levels. So you can't see gold has never been high up here. This was back in 1833, when they actually started plotting the level. Before that, you can't see that was the dinosaur age. So there's no data past that. So we've never really been here before. Maybe today history might be in the making. You could find that the market could actually rally past, this 2700 level. And I guess if everything lines up and we actually get the buyers, showing up within this region and the market actually breaks to the upside and holds above here, then I guess at that point in time, we could actually end up looking for buys. But right now, as far as things are concerned, we will be watching out to see whether we can get selling opportunities. So I guess, and I hope that's pretty clear, everything that we've discussed. Remember, in case anything is not clear, especially in terms of what we've discussed, you can rewatch this broadcast. We're also live on YouTube, and the recording does stay there, so you can peruse through to see what we've discussed in case you've missed out on anything. If you do need more education and more information on how to go about the charts, remember, we do have a number of courses. You can visit our website, www.afriforex.com. If you go to the Academy section, or even at the bottom here, there's some information that you can get. But of course, if you go to the Academy section, then you definitely can end up getting more information, depending on which level you are, from beginner to intermediate. We do have the semi-pro, which is the amplified program that we do have in the professional, the Forex sniper program. So if you want to be a real sniper like Dan Bickett and Bravin, make sure that you also jump in on that. But of course, you first need to make sure that you've done the amplified. So of course, there's more information on our site. Also, there's a link that Mitch was having a bit of difficulty yesterday opening. This was it, the tab.bio/Afriforex. It should be there on our contact details. You can also find all our resources. We've put them all together in one place so that it's easier for guys to find them. So you can find this link on our chat box. If you go to our socials, if you go to our Instagram, you click on our bio, then you should also be able to get this information as well. So I hope that does help you guys. And remember that I think the October class for the AMP should be starting off next week, but so around the 14th. So if you've done the master class and you want to jump in on that, make sure that you do sign up, then we'll definitely get in touch with you. So let's look at the Q&A section to see if there are any queries. So I see Caroline Waniki there. Good to see you. Saying on Wednesday there was news on ADP non-farm and it turned out bearish. And today there is NFP. Do you think what happened in the ADN non-farm will be of effect on the non-farm payroll today? And you're also adding there that during that news, the pairs that turned bearish, the GBP USD and other pairs with the USD as the second pair. Well, it could possibly end up affecting to some extent because, even the news event that you're talking about from Wednesday, we had actually factored that in to our analysis. I think yesterday, but although, there were more fundamentals that actually did end up coming out, but it did seem like this one did possibly end up kicking in and possibly starting to bring in the bullish moves that we did end up seeing on the USD. Remember that we're also expecting some bearish moves to possibly end up coming in, but unfortunately that didn't. So there's a possibility this was possibly what did actually end up affecting. But, when it comes to the non-farm payroll, now that is a whole different ballgame, because what happens today could possibly end up setting, especially on the bigger time frame for the guys who are looking for the swings. You could possibly find that it could actually end up setting the tone and the direction for which the market might actually end up taking, for the next month or so. So to some extent, maybe it could be. Let me not say it's not it, but I guess when it comes to NFP, let's just wait and see what does end up happening. We'll take it as it is independently. But that's a very good observation. So shout out to you, Caroline Mwaniki, for that. So I see Alan Ronald there. You're saying, hi, John, thanks a lot. Karibu sana, Alan, as well. Always happy to see you here. So I guess that's pretty much it from me and from us. Remember, today we do have the non-farm payroll. I think we've repeated that a couple of times. So I know that risk is already ringing in your minds. Just make sure that you're careful out there. We don't want guys blowing their accounts, and then you have to look for more money so that on Monday, just to get ready for Monday. So you're busy over the weekend just looking for money, just to refund your accounts. Just make sure that you're really careful on the charts. Want to thank guys so much. It's been another great week with you guys. Lots of moves on the charts. Today we're going to be seeing how the week ends. Hopefully we do end up ending on a high. If you do get any trades, feel free to send them in to us, whether good or bad. The screenshots, we'll be more than happy to see what you're up to. So with that, have a restful weekend. Have a beautiful remainder of your day. And I guess we will see you guys on Monday, 9 a.m. in the morning. So with that, happy trading and bye for now. May the peeps be with you. God bless.